Folks, what's going on? HeirofCarthage back in Troll Country, and I hope you're ready for some more dog dirt, because it's here. Alright, so this is still round one. This is basically the third match, and this is going to be between myself and Doria, who is playing as Empire. I'm going to go ahead and slow it down for just a second so we can take a quick look at the armies. Empire is a tricky one in this auto-gen because they have so many expensive units, and the auto pick loves to get them. Ooh, get a sweet view here of the rockets and the Luminarch warming up there. So yes, he has 2 rocket batteries, a Luminarch, and then he got 3 guns. And in order to use the auto-gen armies, you have to leave unit caps unchecked. So he got Gunderman's Surefires, handgunners, silver bullets, a war wagon with mortar, but it only gave him 2 infantry units, unless you want to include the Empire captain here, which he is using as an infantryman. And then I've chosen Norska, and honestly, for an auto-gen army, I'm not saying this army is good, because it has no caster, but I'm pretty happy with what I ended up with. I have a Marauder Chieftain on a chariot, a Skinwolf Werekin, and then up front, I've got a mix of Berserkers and Marauders, and then the second line, we're going to have Marauder Champions. I ended up with 2 of those, and then we also got the Brutes of the Hound Berserkers back here. I ended up with a Feral Mammoth, 2 Marauder Hunters with throwing axes, and a Norskan Ice Wolf. So pretty thrilled with the troops that I got, to be honest. So clearly I'm going to have to rush the Empire, and so I figured this would be the case. As soon as the battle started, I start closing the distance, and my troops are under heavy fire, and they need to be. The Empire is going to have to significantly reduce the amount of infantry here. You can see that the Luminarch is very intelligently targeting my Mammoth, and it is causing tremendous damage. And then over here, I was able to use my Ice Wolves to at least slow down his war wagons at the moment. Though, now that I think about it, I probably should have dived in on the silver bullets because they've turned and started shooting me. But at least I have the attention of some of his troops here. I'm going to engage my infantry and try to avoid blobbing here. So I've engaged his... these aren't actually just Marines, these are Nordland Marines. I've engaged the Nordland Marines. My Chieftain is just awaiting an attack order here. My Skinwolf Werekin is diving in to the Demigryph Knights that he had. And I've got my Skinwolves here crashing into the Sunderman's Surefires. My Chieftain has now gotten the Luminarch. So at this point, just trying to collapse in. You can see that the Spearmen have already given way under the weight of the Berserkers, and I've got more troops moving around the flank. The Empire is going to struggle here to contain the rush of the Norskins. But really good job here on the Luminarch to continue to get work out of it. It's almost entirely eliminated the Mammoth from this equation, which is pretty good. His rocket batteries are doing what they can, but the distance has now been closed, and they're going to be engaged in melee. I believe we have some Marauder Champions there. Or actually, I think those are just Marauders. You can see the attack continuing here. The Skinwolf Werekin in here. The Luminarch is now routed. The Marauder Chieftain has helped to get rid of some of these, and was able to surround and destroy some of the things in the middle of his unit formation. The Demigryph Knights are back here fighting the Skinwolf Werekin, and they're doing some pretty good damage to him, but they're a little bit overwhelmed right now because they've got some armored Skinwolves in there with them, as well as the support of these Marauders. So there's a lot of units. The Marauder Chieftain's trying to silence the rocket battery. There are some champions running back there to do that. We can keep the Empire captain busy, and as you can see, it was a really rough matchup. The Empire just really got some dog dirt picks here from the auto-gen. The Empire is a faction that that's just going to be the case. They've got some expensive unit that the AI loves to throw in there and doesn't really know how to pair it, and so you certainly got your work cut out for you. So my Norskan Marauders, on the other hand, pretty decent army, all things considered, so this was very much a luck of the draw scenario for me, and I think a good try there by my opponent, Doria. I mean, he did what he could with what he had. He didn't really have the units to protect the missiles, and so there wasn't a whole lot else he could do. It didn't give him a caster either, so both of us running without a caster whatsoever. But I mean, think about how quick that rush went down. He managed to get some kills with his rockets. It's not going to show a kill here on the Luminarch, but it basically kept the Mammoth out of the fight for the most part. I think the Mammoth regrouped at the very end and charged a couple of regrouped spearmen, and it was totally unnecessary. So I would say his Luminarch pretty much shut down the Mammoth. Did a good job of it. And I just had the luck of, I think, getting a hold of a superior army here, which just kind of what happens in this tournament, and that's part of the fun of it. That's why it's just for fun, too, and not like a strictly competitive thing. But Aurelio Doria, along with all the other players, he may have gotten knocked out here, but he's going to find himself in possession of a sweet $15 Steam card. And when we do one of these in the future, we're going to continue to do that, just to try and encourage people to participate and be able to shake off the fact that, I mean, you're definitely going to get dealt a load of dog crap sometimes in here. Let's move on to the next match. All right, the next match of this one is going to be the Dwarves versus Norska again. Norska looks like it got reused here, but these players had actually kind of already used an auto picker and started their battle when we decided that we were going to not allow the factions to be picked more than once in the same round. So in the future, you probably won't see this, but we didn't feel like it was a huge deal, so we just wanted them to play this one out. This time, Wulfric the Wanderer and a Famir Balefiend, Lord of Shadows, so that's a pretty fortuitous pick for Norska. And they've got some Marauder Champions, Marauder Spears, Marauder Berserkers, Marauders with great weapons, Skin Wolves, Frostworm, some more Marauders over here, and then some Hunters, both with axes and javelins. And then there were some Vanguard and other fast-moving units. We got some Ice Wolf Chariots, some Warhounds, and the Beast of Tashnar. Yes, Beast of Tashnar. I've said it wrong before. Let's take a look at the Dwarves. Up front, they've got Hammers, Dwarves with great weapons. That's a lot of infantry power. And then there's another unit of Hammerers and a Dwarf with great weapon in the back. There's some Iron Drakes, a Master Engineer, a Belagar Iron Hammer. It's a kind of a crappy pick for the Dwarves, but we do have a Flame Cannon and a Goblobber. That's some powerful artillery, and fortunately for the Dwarves, there's not a lot of large units here for Norska. So we'll see. The Frostworm did a little bit of breath attack early to help support that fight. There are Flame Cannons firing. Flame Cannons should be good as long as they're targeted well, but this map was another one we threw into the rotation because the Altar of Ultimate Darkness is a horrible multiplayer map, so we just felt like it added to the dog dirt, and that's why it's here. You can see Norska a little apprehensive about going after the artillery, and I don't blame him. There's a unit of Slayers and Ulthar's Raiders and all kinds of stuff back here that's going to make life a little bit miserable for the Norskan player, but the Dwarves are attacking piecemeal up front, at least at the moment, and allowing some push here by Norska and some engagements that might give them some advantages. See, the Flame Cannon is doing some work. The Frostworm's going to dive in. I like this. You know, try and single out some units. Try and get some work done. Melkoth's Miasma right now. A little bit surprised we didn't see a Pendulum, but we do have some good breaking here. Norska getting a good start. If we take a look over here, Belagar is going to engage Wulfric and the Famir Balefiend. Belagar's pretty tanky, and you can see why from the stats there. He's not the best fighting lord for the Dwarves, but up against this combo, he's going to be a bit of a mess to try and face down, especially while his ability is engaged. You can see the initial Dwarf infantry wrapped up, but I kind of think the Dwarves are playing it this way on purpose with reserves. I mean, they're going to have leadership and stuff on their side. Look at this, man. Belagar is just really whipping up on Balefiend, and Wulfric, the Balefiend, needs to get out of there. He should be faster by quite a lot than Belagar, so he needs to run away. Yeah, he is considerably faster. He needs to get out of there. These Iron Drakes would be a good target for Balefiend. Look at that Pendulum. Not bad placement there. He ended up getting some decent damage across these units, so Balefiend getting some work done. Wulfric and the Frostworm now come back looking for Belagar, and they do take a chunk out of him nearly immediately in this fight, but you can see that the Frostworm's going to pull back. These Iron Drakes need to be dealt with, and rather soon. And you can see that Norska continues to kind of engage the infantry up front, but now it's started some engagements with the Marauder Champions on the flank. Going to support it with the Frostworm. And then we've got the Marauder Ice Wolf Chariot trying to crash here into the artillery as well. There's a lot of Dwarves back here, including some Slayers. And look at this. Iron Drake's going to unload on the Frostworm, trying to melt him quite literally. He's going to need to dive into that with 2 units of Iron Drakes around. Norska definitely needs to get those dealt with, and Wulfric needs to stop fighting Belagar. Belagar owns this fight. There's no doubt about it. He is dominating Wulfric. He dominated the Balefiend, And really the only time that fight was going any good was whenever that Frostworm was in there helping out. But I like Balefiend in here cleaning up the Iron Drakes, and we'll see whether or not Norska can break through the hammers in the middle. Their chariots have been allowed to get bogged down, and this could be an undoing for Norska. The chariots are a very important unit. They can't be allowed to get bogged down. You can see here now they're getting pulled out, so it's a little bit late, but a good catch by Norska. They've got to keep those chariots on the move. They are too valuable to be allowing that to happen. You see the ship here just misses its target. Obviously hits better whenever it's going to be a stationary target. Wulfric is just all in at this point. He's got Occam's Mind Razor trying to finish off Bellegarde. It's a very, very tight fight here between Wulfric and Bellegarde. It looks like Wulfric has finally turned it a little and does actually rout Bellegarde and kill him with the help of that Balefiend. So what a clutch turnaround there, but things not looking great for Norska. They have spent a lot of troops in their attempts to bring down some of these dwarf units, and now that high armor, high leadership, oh boy, it's going to be a mess to be dealt with. The Iron Drakes are being attacked by the Beast of Tashnar and some Warhammers. This is good, but those guys have 125 armor. It's going to take a while to chew through them, regardless of the fact that the dwarves can't fight back very well. Marauder Spearman going after the Grudge Thrower, or sorry, the Goblobber. So that's a good call, but look at that. These Iron Drakes got free again. Did they fight back? No, Balefiend just pulled out of the fight and went to a different one. Yeah, boy, you can't leave these guys uncovered. Look at this. Slayers over here got a hold of Balefiend and some Berserkers. They need the support of these chariots, but they haven't gotten it. Or the chariots need to be over here on the Iron Drakes. Probably both places wouldn't hurt. So I feel like Norska has probably made a couple of fatal mistakes at this point. But then again, you know, the Norskan army that they were given here obviously is not ideal for dealing with dwarves. And the Norskan player has managed to pull out some victories amongst this. He did get rid of Bellegarde. He did get rid of some elite infantry early on. But as he did so in a blob and then engaged a few of the dwarf units that were isolated, or sorry, a few of his units over here that got fairly isolated, they were defeated. The chariots, for what time they've been engaged, have done pretty well. They just haven't been kept on the move. And with chariots against dwarves, they just kind of constantly have to be moving and constantly be a nuisance. It takes a lot of management. It can be difficult to pull off sometimes, but it's very effective if you can do it. And in this case, the victory is going to go to the dwarves, led by Fiendfire. So Fiendfire carries a victory from the first round here with his dwarf army. An unlucky zombie was unlucky indeed. I mean, I'm trying to think here. It only gave him, the Shadow, Balefiend Shadows is actually a decent pick here for him. But the rest of these units, not ideal for facing off against dwarves. Marauder Champions would be decent against some of the non-armor-piercing variants of dwarf infantry. I say decent, not ideal, but decent, because some of the dwarves aren't good at dealing much damage. And you can see that they have most of their hit points intact. Marauders with great weapons, again, a decent unit if you can keep their leadership up. The Chariots, sure, this is a good unit. The Chariots can get some pretty serious work done if they're used right. The Frostworm, same thing. There are a few units here that were helpful for sure. Flame Cannon, not ideal versus Norska because you could run into large, but this particular army did not have those large creatures, so the Flame Cannon ends up being just fine. Ulthar's Raiders could have helped make up for some of that. Iron Drakes, man, I would be pretty happy to have some Iron Drakes. It's tough against Norska depending on how well they use their speed to cover these type of things. I feel like maybe if that early infantry engagement had seen Famir Balefiend drop like a Pit of Shades or something that finished off the dwarves a little quicker, and then they pushed forward and used all this speed and mobility to go tie down the Iron Drakes and draw the attention of some Slayers or something, then you may have been able to see the infantry come in along with the chariots and be able to operate with a little more success there, but it just didn't work out. Bellegarde, I was pretty surprised how well he stood up in these fights, but then again, not entirely surprised. The dude has a ton of armor, and with that Revenge Incarnate thing that he has, he gets some big stats, at least for a short period of time, even though it's not particularly armor-piercing. But let's go on to the final match of round one, which is kind of a final match. Just by a random seed, Regina ended up kind of having to play twice in round one because we had 9 players, which was an odd number, so we'll go on to her quote-unquote round 1 match, even though she kind of already had like a round 0 type match. So again, remember the last match? Those two guys didn't know that we'd already eliminated a couple of factions when they ran their automatic faction picker. Typically, we're not going to allow the reuse of the same factions during the same round. But again, this tournament obviously isn't like heavily focused on rules because it's the Dog Dirt tournament. You've seen the logo. You've heard the intro sound for it, so yeah, it is what it is. Clearly, over here with the Vampire Coast, they've got Queen Bess on station, which the AI loves to pick. You can see that there's a Vampire Fleet Admiral here, Lord of Death with a pistol. There's going to be some Fell Bats up front, some Zombie Deckhand Mob, including the Tide of Scold. We've got some Bombers, some Gunnery Mob with handguns, and then just standard Gunnery Mob. There's a Rotting Promethean Gunnery Mob, and then a Bloaty Boy. So be curious to see how the Bloated Corpse gets used here. Should be a lot of fun. And then over here in the woods, we've got a Night Terrors and Morngul. This is going to be really handy if it's used at the right timing for the Vampire Coast. Those are some armor-piercing units. Not great leadership, but definitely possibly effective. But look at this, a Trollhammer Torpedo. Boy, those monsters are going to want to steer clear of that. But Thorgrim Grudgebearer, ouch. The dwarves got a pick for that, and a Thane instead of a Runesmith or something. Yeah, there's another Iron Drake. So we got one Trollhammer, one Flamethrower. We got a Quarreler with Great Weapon, an Organ Gun, and then over here, Hammers, Warriors with Great Weapons, and then some more Warriors and Longbeards up front, along with an Organ Gun. Two Organ Guns here. So, boy, that is going to be interesting. And then we've got a Gyrocopter, just a standard Gyrocopter up front, and then an Iron Breaker out on the right flank. So pretty significant infantry for the Vampire Coast to deal with. They're going to have to really rely on Queen Bess to get some work done. And old Bessie has done some damage to one of these organ guns for sure. You can see the mortars over here for the Vampy Coast as well, already kind of doing some of their work. With Queen Bess, I kind of like to pick a target, hit it, move to the next one, but if a target starts moving after Queen Bess fires, it's typically useless. The Fellbats are thrown in early against the Quarrelers with Great Weapons. I'm not sure that that is an ideal move. And we've got the Bloated Corpse here also moving in early. This is pretty risky because if you get picked off by some Iron Drakes or a leader, your Bloated Corpse won't be very useful. It's usually best to wait on these things and bring them in if you can create an infantry blob of some sort. But look at this, the Morghuls do manage to get a organ gun, and the other organ gun was destroyed. But oh man, they stick around and the Iron Drakes give them a warm welcome. Haha, lame joke. And oh boy, yeah, the Night Terrors have rampaged. So this is tough for the Vampire Coast because they really don't want to take an engagement yet. So the rampaging Morghuls are going to be a big downer for the Vampire Coast because these units are very important, and there was a risk in using them that early, and that risk is playing out right here. You can see the Vampire Coast has moved up though and opened fire with its guns. They don't want to commit the rest of their troops yet. We're seeing that the Queen Bess is still targeted on the organ gun. Probably a good time to move it over to a hammer or another unit. There is a gunnery wight supporting it, so it should have ammo for ages, so I can kind of understand why the Vampire Coast is sitting back. I'm just not sure I would have fully committed these Morghuls at this point. But then again, we will see how this turns out. The Vampire Coast has a considerable amount of ammo. They have some guns. See right there is a miss. Queen Bess can easily miss if a unit starts moving after it's already launched its shot. These Iron Drakes will destroy the gunnery mob if they don't fall back. Without any armor, the gunnery mob are going to be very, very vulnerable to the flaming death. And you can see that they're right now just trading shots, which they really don't want to do. Here comes the Rotting Promethean gunnery mob to help out with that. And we can see over here some zombies trying to hold back the Iron Breaker. A lot of good that's going to do them. There's not a lot of meat now in this army for the Vampire Coast to hold back the assault of the dwarves. I think if I'm the dwarves, I'm just going to come charge on in. I got a Gyrocopter that's going to eat through these low armor units. I got Iron Drakes. The Trollhammer torpedoes now should be able to get at the Promethean gunnery mob, and we'll see whether they do. That would be an effective target for them with certainty. They still have not gotten that attack order, though, to go after that gunnery mob, and the gunnery mob is cleaning up an Iron Drake. See, Thorgrim's fighting this off. We got more infantry coming forward. Yeah, the Tide of Scold is going to get absolutely flushed back into the bay by these dwarf warriors. Queen Bess lands a hit, but it's going to cost some of her own troops as well. So the dwarf assault is underway. Oh yeah, here comes the trollhammer torpedoes. This is what I was waiting on. The gyrocopter won't do a lot, but the trollhammer torpedoes are going to put these Prometheans down. It's going to be tons of damage with every hit that they get there, because those torpedoes are high damage, very armor piercing, which is armor is one of the main benefits of the big hermit crabs there. Another solid hit by Bessie, doing some real good damage to those hammers. You can see the gunnery wight doing his job, keeping these units armed with ammunition and sitting back, but very few units left here for the coast. One of the organ guns has regrouped for the dwarves and is now firing on the bombers and the gunnery mob, and you can see the iron breakers making their way up the hill as well. So the coast is in pretty big trouble here. They needed those Mournguls to help stave off a rush here, and the Mournguls instead were vanguard deployed. I kind of feel like they could have won that artillery battle from range because they had the ammunition, and they had Bess with some range here. They certainly have the ammunition with the gunnery wight able to help protect you. Let's see if these bombers can hold back. Oh, the warriors with great weapons. Yeah, they haven't even gotten a bomb off yet, so now the warriors are closing the distance on the artillery. Not a whole lot that the Vampire Coast can do at this point. They're going to get caught, and they're going to get destroyed. Oh, there's a purple sun used here by the Vampire Fleet Captain, but was not a group of infantry nearby, or it took off very quickly from that miner. It's almost better to have saved that, maybe if you get this Iron Breaker into combat. Look at that, the bombers did get some hits there. Did a little bit of damage to these warriors. There's just no units here that are going to be great at dealing with Thorgrim. We may see the gunnery wight and the fleet captain kind of skirmish a little, but I don't think they'll have enough ammunition to really take out all these units, so they can skirmish, maybe do a little damage. The fleet captain can fire while moving. The gunnery wight cannot. Let's see what other spells. Yeah, look at this. The bombers are getting some work done here, though. Kudos to them. They're managed to pick up some kills. They're up to 27 now. Yeah, the dwarves won't have an easy time catching these characters. Dwarves, of course, are only fast over short distances. They are natural-born sprinters, not the cross-country types. The gyrocopter's out of ammo, and zombies really have no prayer of outrunning such a unit, so it's only a matter of time before those are caught. And then you can see the gunnery wight using a special missile attack there, but it doesn't quite hit its mark on the Thane. The Thane would definitely be a match for this guy in combat. Only 30 armor. You can see the Vampire Fleet Captain just fleeing for, I think it's a her, maybe? Or her, his? I think it's a her. Vampire Fleet Captain fleeing for her life. I'm going to go with her. If I've misrepresented, then, you know, it is what it is. Yeah, just really no chance here for the Vampy Coast. The bombers are trying to get away. Only dwarves would have a hard time catching up to zombies. But there's quarrelers on station, so those zombies are toast. No more bombing going on over there, and let's see what happens. Yeah, the gyrocopters are able to help catch up to these leaders. So now we've got the gunnery wight caught, and he is getting thrashed over here by the Thane and all these units. He just doesn't have the armor. Enhanced ballistas, why not? Gotta pop whatever abilities you got. And nice play here, just trying to keep alive with the fleet captain, but yeah, it's just not gonna work. There's an organ gun that's opening fire now too, and that's gonna do it. There's gonna be army losses and crumbling. And this one is gonna go to Regina. And not usual to see her with the dwarves here. Isidore, I really liked the artillery work he was doing early on here. It was pretty effective. I just, throwing in those Mournguls early, I think may have ended up costing him pretty dearly. I don't know if he had enough real power to take this out. We've got 0 kills, though, on the Bloated Corpse, and that's a miss. The Bloated Corpse, I was telling you, came in a little early, and apparently it did get caught by some of the skirmish units and blown up, or it got caught by one of the leaders and KO'd. I think the Bloated Corpse is a good one to just hide in the woods and wait for, like, so for instance, if you kind of keep it hidden back, wait for the Iron Drakes to get engaged somewhere, bam, Bloated Corpse, you can take out a super expensive unit with that, as long as it's pinned up against something cheap like the zombies. And if the Mournguls are kept back, and kind of just only used when they have to be as the dwarves approach after they've taken as much artillery damage as possible. Could be a good situation. Now, there's 2 organ guns. They got some kills in the end. Queen Bess was doing decent against the organ guns early. The mortars were helping as well. I don't know 100% whether the Dread Fleet would have won that artillery fight, but I think they could have. At which point the dwarves would have closed the distance, and it would have ended up being still a challenging battle. It would have been curious to see that one if the Mournguls and Felt Bats were held along with the Bloated Corpse a little longer and let that artillery duel play out. Could have been very curious indeed. But Isidore, thank you for being a part of it. He's going home with a $15 Steam card, like everybody else. And that gets us through round 1 of the Dog Dirt tournament, meaning that we are moving into the quarterfinals. And in the quarterfinals, I'm going to have to tab over real quick. I'll take a look and let you all know. We've got Regina versus Navarro, and then myself versus Icket. So that is going to be our semifinals. And then we will have the finals. So I'll hit the semifinals in the next video, and then we'll have the finals in a final video, and we'll get the whole tournament in there. And then, you know what? If we had fun with this, we'll make a little bit more official one next week and have some fun with it on the Discord. So if you all want to be a part of this, make sure you join the Discord. There is a link in the description. I will talk to you soon with some more Total War action.